Christy with the Chirp YouTube channel. I had a request during this series on autism that I'm doing to talk about self-harm, particularly a little boy who hits himself and bangs his head in certain circumstances. This is a great topic, and I don't think I've ever talked about self-harm on this channel before, and I don't know why, because it's very, very common and I've dealt with it a lot. So let's talk about it a little bit today. This may end up being more than one video depending on how much I feel like I can shove into one video, because sometimes the longer videos don't get watched that much. So I might split it up. We shall see. The first thing we want to talk about is that self-harm in autism is very, very common. And there are lots of reasons for it. So I can't tell you, this is why it happens, this is what to do. Exactly. We have to kind of figure it out. It's a problem-solving adventure. The first step is doing what we call a functional analysis. A functional analysis, also called a functional behavioral analysis, if you look it up online, it can be called either thing. In order to figure out why a behavior is occurring, we need to analyze it in its context. A behavior is never just a behavior, there's always a context. We look at what comes before the behavior, we look at the behavior, and we look at what comes after the behavior. I do have a video on functional behavior analysis, although it's a little bit on the elderly side. I will put a link to it right there so you can watch it, and I will put links in the box below the video so that you can look at other resources on this topic as well. There are quite a few worksheets that you can fill out. I recommend doing this for a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how common the injurious behavior is for your child. If it's not very common, you're going to need to do this for a longer time period. But you want to track the behaviors. You want to have a good idea of what is coming before the behavior, what the behavior looks like, and what comes after the behavior. Not just on the kid's perspective. We need to fill in all the details of everything that's happening around the behavior before we can figure it out. If you can get some sort of a special ed professional on board with you to help figure out the behavior, then that is very helpful. I recommend speech pathologists, especially the ones who specialize in developmental disorders, because we have tools of helping kids communicate better. And in a lot of these circumstances, there are communication issues, which I will discuss in a few minutes. Once you figure out why the behavior is occurring, then you can better address it, and hopefully it will occur less often. Let's talk about some of the reasons why kids harm themselves. First of all, I have to mention there could be biochemical reasons. For example, there's this weird study I found that says that kids who are low in calcium tend to poke themselves in the eye. Kids with autism, as I'm sure you know, oftentimes have sensory issues with food and aren't often eating a well-balanced diet with lots of fruits and vegetables. When you only eat chicken nuggets and French fries, you're bound to have nutritional deficiencies. You're bound to. There's not enough nutrition in processed food. Kids need fruits and vegetables, especially when their very delicate little brains are developing. So it's not a bad idea to get a nutritional analysis done of your kid. Just go to the doctor and say, I need to make sure my kid is getting enough vitamins and minerals. Can we do some sort of blood work? Because there may be some significant things that, if you address them, might help some of those behaviors. Another thing to keep in mind is that seizures can cause self-injurious behavior. Kids who are having seizures can hurt themselves because their brain is not acting right. It's having zap fests. So if you can, it would be a great idea to get some sort of a brain scan to make sure that this isn't going on with your kid. Your doctor might know more, but a neurologist would be a good step to rule out any sort of seizure activity. Keep in mind that kids need to be in a particular zone in order to function well. just as we do. When we are, in my field, it's called arousal. So a kid needs to be in just the right zone. Last video, I talked about the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development exists, and that is where kids learn best. That's where I learn best as well, and so do you. We can't be under aroused where we're just bored out of our minds and we can't even listen another second because it's so boring, we need some stimulation. And we can't be over aroused where we're hyper and jittery and we can't sit still. In between those two, there is a corridor called the zone of proximal development, and that is where we are able to function. So look at this as you're doing your functional behavior analysis to try to discover, is my child injuring herself when she is understimulated, when there's nothing going on and she doesn't have any interaction with anyone? Or is there some connection with being overstimulated? It's a loud environment. There's a lot of TV on all the time. There's a dog barking. There's a bird squawking. There are trucks driving by all the time. The windows are open, it's really noisy, or maybe the TV's really loud, or the music's really loud, or I turn on the blender. Is there some connection to over-arousal? That all could be part of the issue. I think it's pretty clear that in the first two, there's nothing that you can do on a personal level that will fix those except for going to see the right kind of doctors to get the blood work done, to check on nutritional deficiencies, and go see a neurologist to have brain scans done. On the issue of arousal, you definitely can change the environment to change that issue. For example, if your child is under aroused, then turning some music on could be helpful. Playing an ambient nature video could be helpful. There are all sorts of things. Introducing activities that are fun, stickers and gluing and pasting, and just a little more stimulation is going to help. If your child's over-aroused, you can do relaxation type things. Make sure, we'll talk about this in a minute, but make sure that your child is getting the right sensory stimulation that calms her down. Make sure that there is maybe no extra sounds in the house at all, or maybe you're playing soothing ambient music. I have some favorites that I'll leave in the box for you. Maybe you do relaxation together. Maybe you practice yoga. Maybe you sit very quietly and rub her back for her for 5 minutes a few times a day. Whatever it takes to help your child get calm. If arousal is an issue, whatever it takes to help your child get within the zone of proximal development, then do it. It will help. We also need to talk about the fact that some kids who are self-injurious are in pain. That's a bad thing, especially if kids don't have a way to express that they are in pain, or they don't recognize that they should express that they're in pain. A lot of kids with autism, especially on the more significantly impacted side, don't even think about communicating that they're in pain to anyone. They're feeling it, but they're not thinking, my stomach hurts really bad, I should tell my mom so she can take me to the doctor. It's not really how it works in their brain. So they don't communicate it, they do something else, and that other thing happens to also hurt. But when we are in pain, we do crazy things. I'm sure that you have been there also. If your child is self-injurious, please, once again, don't give up with going to the doctor to make sure that there's nothing going on. Check the stomach, check the ears, check the throat. A lot of kids with autism also have significant allergies and digestive problems. On this one, if there are digestive problems, there are a few different diets that help. More fiber helps, definitely. So the more whole grains you can get your kid to eat. I'm not talking chicken nuggets. I'm talking brown rice, oatmeal, those kind of things. They really help the guts to get the right kind of bugs in them so that our digestion works better. I will leave some links for you down below on kid nutrition and on how we can help picky kids eat a little bit healthier that I think will be helpful to you, because I know that's a huge issue for a lot of families. If there are inner ear issues, dairy is the biggest culprit. So using some sort of almond milks and vegan cheese instead of regular cheese is a really good idea. It cuts down on middle ear infections quite a bit. Let's also talk about sensory issues. If you've been following me for any length of time, you will know that I talk about sensory stuff a lot. And that's because it affects our kids so much. And in fact, it affects most of us in some way. I have lots of videos on this topic, so I won't go into it very much here. I'm putting a list right there that you can browse through. But basically, you want to make sure that your kid's sensory needs are being met. If your child is hypersensitive to things, then helping your kid get more comfortable with those things is a great idea. If your kid is undersensitive, then providing more sensory stimulation is going to help. Sensory needs are huge, so don't ignore those. Go watch that playlist and see how it helps. I think this is where I'm going to end this video for today, because we've discussed a good number of things that you can start looking into if your kid is doing self-harm. And next time I want to discuss all of the issues related to communication where a child be doing self-harm. So come back next week and I will have a new video for you where we will talk about self-harm and communication disorders or deficits. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Things are crazy out there. Let's just keep doing what we do, and let's plan to stay healthy and well. I hope you are all happy where you are, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a like. It helps other people find these videos too. See you soon.